Hi, everyone. Hi. I'm sorry to keep you. I was just with the president in the Oval Office. I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but it's a good day. He just signed a bill into law, the American Rescue Plan, and it's a good day. And that's why I wanted to see you guys today and to see you again. It was very important to me to get back with each of you. You are the people who inspired the American Rescue Plan. You guys are the people. And so when we knew that the bill might be signed today, we wanted to make sure that I could let you know that we listened to you guys. We listened to you and we heard your stories. And your stories represent an American story about how folks have been doing and not doing. And, you know, as the president said and promised, help is on the way. And now I'm happy to say I do believe help is here. And over the past few months, you guys, you took your time to spend time with me, to visit with me, to have long conversations that were, for you, really about sharing pain and sharing, you know, your personal kind of experience. And you've really been very generous in the way that you have given us that kind of feedback and those stories that have really shaped the American Rescue Plan. And so I want to thank you for that. And I think you're going to see that the American Rescue Plan is going to be responsive to a lot of what we talked about. And it's going to bring help to American families and to the folks that you all serve. Because each of you really does represent so many folks in terms of not only your story about how you have experienced it, but the people that in every way that you touch. You know, for example, Nadia Johnson, I think you all have met each other. I visited with you, I know you remember, in a union hall in Milwaukee. I'll never forget that afternoon. We were there, you and a handful of small business owners, and we were there having a very honest, interactive conversation on the ground, in the community, where you work, to talk about the challenges that you face. And that was feedback, and that was before COVID really hit. So I've been carrying your story with me for a long time. Danielle Romanetti, I visited your small business in Virginia. Boy, by the way, did I learn how many people crochet and knit that I never knew crochet and knit. But heard about the challenges that you are facing as a small business owner in a small business community where the majority of the small businesses are women-owned, and where you also allowed me to talk with your team, including about the challenges facing working moms, balancing working in a small business and trying to make sure that their kids are, you know, getting online to attend their classes. Ron Busby, together with the Black Chambers, you brought all of the chambers from around the country together, and we talked about the need for targeted relief for Black-owned small businesses, many of whom, and that was emphasized in our meeting, many of whom have under 20 employees. And so there is a component of how we have been rolling out relief that is paying attention to just that point and making sure that our smallest businesses are not last in line, but in fact first in line to get the benefit that they so direly need. And I'm proud to report that the American Rescue Plan includes, therefore, billions of dollars to provide growth capital to small businesses and in hard-hit areas as a focus, including Black-owned, Latino-owned, women-owned small businesses. Mark Perone, you and I have been working together for years, and the conversations we have had for years about the dignity of the workers who stock grocery shelves and the workers who pack and process our food. You and I have had so many conversations about that. And then in particular, during COVID, when you, as always, are fighting for the dignity and for the rights of those, as we now in America now understands, essential workers. And recently, of course, we've talked about how these workers have been struggling to stay on the job safely and to stay on the job, period. And as you noted, Mark, in your statement about the bill, it includes housing assistance and SNAP food aid for the hardest hit families. And it also includes protections for union members who are going to lose their pensions. And it lowers health insurance premiums for working people. So I heard you guys. We heard you. Mayor McKinley Price, when we talked, you mentioned the budget constraints facing local governments right now. And the American Rescue Plan, of course, heard that, heard from so many mayors all over the country, bipartisan. And so in the American Rescue Plan, we provide targeted support for as many as 19,000 cities and towns and villages. We are paying attention to our native leaders and around the tribal communities. And we're making sure that the American Rescue Plan helps these communities. And Mayor, to your point, helps these communities keep firefighters and teachers on the job. Kristen, you and I were part of a convening of women. Leaders. I mean, they're women, yes, but they're leaders and national leaders, where we talked about working mothers and all women workers and how to help the more than 2 million women who have been forced out of the workforce. And I want to particularly thank you for what you've been doing and what we talked about last time I saw you around the advocacy and your phenomenal advocacy. You are a force, and thank you for that, because you helped get the word out to remind all those women, many of whom are mothers, to remind them that they're not alone, and to remind them of their power and the power of their voice. And so, you know, the American Rescue Plan, as a result of everything we heard from all of you and so many others, we're going to get $1,400 checks into the pockets of people who need them most, and a $3,000 tax credit per child for parents. It includes $40 billion for childcare, and it's going to help 11 million Americans from losing unemployment benefits. In short, it's going to help women workers. It will help all working families. And as Dr. Samir Bilal knows, I was with him at the pharmacy in Southeast, in D.C. It will help us get more shots in arms. Because when I visited with you, Doctor, we talked about the importance of making sure that vaccines are distributed quickly and equitably. And so I visited with you in a neighborhood that has been around for a long time, predominantly African American. And we talked about the fact that the pharmacy in the community is where people, they trusted to go for medical help and assistance. They knew you, they know your name. And it was therefore important that we got the vaccines into the communities, community health centers, community pharmacies, so that people could go the place they were familiar and that they trusted. And so now with the American Rescue Plan, we're able to set up and staff more community vaccination sites and tackle the supply shortages. And you all may have heard the president talk about the fact that by the end of May, we expect to have enough vaccines to cover everybody in the country, but the challenge will still be to make sure we get those shots in arms. But I'll also tell you, and again, I was just with the president in the Oval Office, one of the things that we're very proud of, and I think we collectively are, the vast majority of Americans, whoever they voted for in that last election, support the American Rescue Plan. And because of your support and because of your advocacy and because of your stories and your leadership, it is now the law of the land. And I'll tell you another piece of it that we are particularly excited about is, in addition to everything I mentioned, it will lift almost half of America's children who are in poverty out of poverty. Think about that. Almost half of the children in our country who are living in poverty, because of your advocacy, your leadership, your advocacy in terms of community and friends and neighbors, half of America's children almost will be lifted out of poverty. That's good stuff. So all that to say, thank you. Thank you all. When I first visited with each of you and during our subsequent conversations, I told you we're going to stay in touch. And I intend to continue to stay in touch, by the way. But just wanted on this important day to thank you for your leadership and for your partnership. And just thank you. And you all probably have met, I hope, Rohini Kosoglo and Mike Pyle. And they're here. They are leaders They're brilliant, and they can answer any questions. I know you guys are in the middle of a meeting that I have now just popped into. But don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions about what's in the bill or how it's going to play out. And now let me ask you yet another time. Share with me what's on your mind. How are you guys doing? How's everybody doing?
We've got just a few minutes before the Vice President, but President Perrone, why don't we start off with you really quickly?
Okay.
Well, thank you, Madam Vice President. I guess I don't need to introduce myself, but, I am the president of the United Food and Commercial Workers. It's America's largest frontline food and retail workers union. Over the last year, tens of thousands of Americans and frontline workers have endured, a life-altering pandemic. We all know that COVID-19 has redefined how we work, the risks that workers face when they go to work, and the responsibility that we all have to care and be there for each other. It's led to unimaginable loss of life. It's impacted us all in ways that we could never have imagined when we started out a year ago. And throughout this, we've looked for hope and light at the end of this dark tunnel. Well, this week, Madam Vice President, you said it, that hope is here with the American Rescue Plan. Many Americans, including my own union members, often question what difference government can make in their lives every day. But this plan answers that question with profound actions. The $1,400 relief check for those that earn less than $75,000 annually. That $3,600 tax credit for families with children under 6. $3,000 for children up to age 17. And thank you, Madam Vice President, for the billions to aid in vaccine distribution, because our members and all the frontline workers need it so desperately. Yeah. But most especially, thank you for that money to open the schools. Given all the threat that our workers have faced, this vaccine funding will be vital to help ensure that these vital workers get vaccinated and vaccinated quickly. Yeah. On behalf of all my members and all the food and retail workers, I can't thank this administration, the House, and the Senate enough for fighting for America's hardworking men and women and families. But more importantly, this legislation sends a powerful message that the responsibility to care for workers is a responsibility that we all share. That's right. Especially our corporate and elected leaders must put these interests in front of their own. And while we must continue to remain focused to end this pandemic, this plan has made it clear that we believe this enduring truth is that no one, and we mean no one, should have to struggle alone. So thank you, Madam Vice President. Please thank the President for me and for my members. We certainly appreciate all that you've done for us.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. That means a lot. And please give your members our best.
Kristen, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I bring over 1 million thank yous with me on this Zoom. The women and moms of America love the American Rescue Plan. We love the historic investment that will stabilize our child care system, as well as for home and community-based services, and the funds to help safely reopen schools. We love the fact that vaccines will be more readily available in equitable ways, especially for vulnerable communities and communities of color. We love the direct support to families, including immigrant families and all those facing hunger and teetering on the brink of homelessness. We absolutely love the revisions to our tax codes, especially including the child tax credit and EITC that, as you noted, will pull half of our children out of poverty. We are doing a happy dance. And you guessed it, we love our champions in Congress and the administration, you, Vice President Harris, who kept fighting for our families and who made this happen. Moms were and are behind you all the way. Moms Rising members made over 230,000 constituent contacts with members of Congress in support of this bill. Why? Because as we all know, the pandemic is having an outsized impact on women and moms, with women and moms of color experiencing compounded health and economic harms due to structural racism. And we know the ARP will be a tremendous help and is a powerful step toward the transformational, permanent, and universal change we all need to lift our economy, our businesses, and our families. America's parents, thank you. for what you, Vice President Harris, President Biden, and the Democratic leaders in Congress have done in just 50 days, and for what you are going to do. We pledge to carry the message forward and to be your partners in continuing this progress. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kristen, and all the moms who are not just rising, but have risen. Thank you.
How about you, Mayor Price?
Well, thank you. As president of the African American Mayors Association, I just want to personally thank you, Madam Vice President, for your commitment to the American people. You know, with the passage of this American Rescue Plan, our member mayors and our mayors all across the country will get the appropriate funding they need to fill the voids in their fiscal budgets. The $10 billion set aside for infrastructure will help cities in desperate need of fixing roads, bridges, and other infrastructure projects that have been overlooked for the last 4 years. And my fellow colleague like Mayor Bowser will get the funding she rightfully deserves for her city in Washington, D.C., correcting the short change that the city received during the relief bill from the previous administration. Yeah. Lastly, this will help us and our constituents employed and small businesses that make up the fabric of our towns and keep them open. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good to see you again. And please thank all your members for their on-the-ground leadership every day. These days have been difficult beyond imagination, and they keep going to fight for the folks who need to be seen and heard. So thank you, Mayor.
Ron Busby from Oakland. Ron, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Well, thank you so much, Madam Vice President. We are truly, truly honored. What my members are most excited about is that you listened, you heard, and you took action. And that's really what an administration, as well as the voters, are really looking for, a partnership. And so at the end of my comments during that opportunity that we had to speak with you, as along with Secretary Yellen, we said we were looking for intentionality, we were looking for accountability, transparency, and most importantly, a partnership. And so for the businesses that we represent across the country, for those sole proprietors, those restaurant owners, those barbershop owners and beauty salons that did not have employees, it was about the needs of the employer as much as it was about the needs of the employee. Understanding that in order for there to be successful Black-owned businesses, that you have to take into consideration the totality, the community. And so when we heard about the bill including home ownership and child care protection and all of the other things that were included in a home ownership as well as just a family, it allowed us to really have hope. When we talked to our members, the one thing that they all were looking for was to ensure that their customers had cash to be able to spend with them. And so this bill allowed them to now be able to reopen safely, to make sure that they're now also marketing to their customers to come and revisit with them. The U.S. Black Chamber is also excited about the future, as well as the rollout and the execution of this bill. So we are here to continue to make sure that we are going to be a partner, not just on the business portion of the bill, but also on the rollout of the vaccination. We know how important that is in the Black community, and we want to stand locked in with the U.S. White House to make sure that our community knows that the vaccinations are going to be safe for Black people to make sure that this country reopens. So again, we're excited about the passage of the bill. We're obviously excited about today as well as the future, and we want you to know that we are truly a partner for today as well as the next 4 years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you for emphasizing the vaccinations and the vaccines, because you are absolutely right, and today is a good day. It was a significant accomplishment in terms of getting the bill signed into the law, but we have so much more work to do. We are still in the midst of the crisis, and the vaccination piece of it is critical to getting beyond the crisis. So thank you for that, and please thank your members as well. And more to come in terms of Secretary Yellen and I and our work that we're doing together on access to capital for small businesses. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Samir, that's a good segue to you on the vaccination piece.
Yeah, thank you. I want to first start off by saying thank you to you and the Biden administration for the focus on the vaccination and taking the first steps to getting the resources that are needed. This legislation should greatly aid in that effort, and I was extremely excited to see that it includes $7.5 billion directed towards the CDC to aid in vaccine distribution, and most importantly, I think, in underserved communities. Additionally, I was elated to see that an extra $1 billion has been allocated to education funding for vaccine confidence activities. I think putting dollars towards targeted marketing, education, community outreach is mission critical in eradicating this virus. I'm happy that the administration recognizes the continued work that still needs to be done to combat vaccine skepticism. I think it's also imperative that all communities get vaccinated to protect both their families and neighbors. And by activating our community pharmacies that are located in many underserved communities, which I was also honored that you came and visited our giant food location in Ward 8. Our pharmacists nationwide, as well as the ones in our locations, can utilize their established relationships to educate and build confidence in essentially an industry that historically has not served them. Ultimately, by addressing the skepticism ahead of time, this enables community pharmacists to do what they do best, and that's put shots in arms. Supermarket pharmacies have administered 25% of flu vaccines annually, and I think we can do that in every American community without asking people to drive out of their way to get the COVID vaccine. So when talking about accessibility and hurdles and access to the vaccine, the nation's 40,000 community pharmacies can help eradicate these barriers. We're hopeful that this announcement that the president made today about purchasing more vaccine will continue to increase its availabilities. I think it's fair to say that the nation's community pharmacists are standing there on the sidelines, ready to go as soon as we have more vaccine to deploy. So again, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Dr. Balal. And I'll tell you, did you see Mark Perone there? Thumbs up the whole time you were talking. And just to make you the point, because the community-based pharmacies in the grocery stores really, you know, it's just, folks come in for their essential needs in terms of groceries, and then they can also go and just get their shot. And you'll remember when I first entered the grocery store, the first person I thanked were the folks who were stocking the shelves. So there is obviously that connection between all of us, many connections between all of us. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Well, we'll end with our two small business owners. Danielle, we'll first start with you.
Hi, thank you. So on behalf of the small business community here in tiny Alexandria, Virginia, thank you for passing this relief bill. As I said during your visit, we are 80% small and locally owned businesses here, so we consider ourselves the heart of the business community within the Beltway. And as such, as you know, mostly small businesses, we've been severely impacted by the pandemic. We don't have deep pockets to pivot. Many of us didn't have infrastructures in place to even sell online. Our restaurants did not have the infrastructure to take online orders and do carry out, everything from packing materials to to-go containers. So it was a struggle. We've struggled over the last year to keep up and remain competitive because our key competitive advantage is customer service and experience. And without in-person customers, we really cannot compete. We do not compare to national retailers and national restaurants for that competition. So it is incredibly important for our community that things return to normal as quickly as possible. So obviously key to that is getting people vaccinated. And you heard from my staff about our fears about my own team not being vaccinated. So the part of this bill that gets vaccines in arms as quickly as possible is what will have the most impact on our small business community and on my employees. it will also fast track our schools reopening. That is a huge business issue for us right now. Here in Alexandria, the schools are not even open 2 days a week quite yet. We're hearing rumors that they won't even be able to reopen in the fall 5 days because they cannot comply with the CDC standards. And so my hopes are that as more people are vaccinated, those standards can change to maybe 3 feet instead of 6, because our community can't actually provide that spacing. And children being back in school is a huge hindrance to females returning to the workforce, to my own staff, and to myself being able to fully work again, as you know, and as you heard when you were at the store. So we are incredibly grateful for this administration's swift action and for your incredible leadership. And as a community inside the Beltway, we are very personally impacted by every changing administration. So I can tell you that Alexandria feels refreshed right now by this new administration. So thank you so much for your quick action and for getting us closer to returning to normal.
Thank you, Danielle. And it really was a great visit. Danielle had her team there, and it included one young woman who described the challenges of going to work every day and her fear about being exposed, but she knew she wanted to help keep the business going, and she also needed an income, right? She needed to pay rent, and her story was very compelling about the mixed emotion she had about being there to help the business, but also being afraid about what she might expose herself to, and that's the story of so many workers in our country, right? And then the other member of your team who talked about being a mom and the challenges of teaching her kids and also being at work, because again, everybody's got to pay the bills, and their commitment to small businesses. And that's one of the things that I just love about all of our small businesses. It's a family affair. It really is, and it's about a connection to the business and equally a connection to the community. And the neighborhood. It's a neighborhood business. It's a community business. So thank you for that. Thank you. It was great to be there. I'm going to come back, too.
Last but not least, Nadia.
Vice President Kamala, it's so great to reconnect, and it's great to be a part of this discussion, an exciting moment forward for our country. For those of you who aren't aware, I'm founder of the Milky Way Tech Hub, which leverages technology to uplift Black and Brown communities and businesses. And let me tell you that for my community, the message is very clear that help is here. And what I'm particularly excited about is the funding that's going towards vaccines. I'm hopeful that a target or a part of that funding will go towards awareness campaigns and educating folks on, where to get vaccines and the importance of getting vaccines, especially in the Black and Brown communities. And I think it's important to leverage Black vendors and Black and Brown vendors in this space to help with the successful deployment of the vaccines. So I'm very excited about that. And of course, given the interest of my small business, and we've been focusing all throughout the pandemic on how to help these schools to implement STEM programming, especially through the virtual training. And so we're very excited. We've been working with teachers to sort of plan on what it looks like to get back in schools and to add additional programming to help our students to catch up. And I'm so grateful for the American Rescue Plan for helping us to get to the point where now we're in the discussions and starting to plan on opening up. And so thank you on behalf of my entire community for making this happen and pushing us forward in this direction. And of course, the ecosystem of startups and small businesses under the Milky Way Tech Hub are super grateful for the additional funding, and especially in the hardest hit industries. Everyone my phone was blowing up because of the news. And so I'm so grateful. And I just want to say thank you for the hard work and effort that you and President Biden have put towards making this a possibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Yes, I mean, there's so much to talk about in terms of, right, the potential that we have here to also leapfrog into a place that we know we can be, right? Some people talk about getting back to normal, but part of the reality of this pandemic is it has highlighted the fissures and the fractures and the failures of the system. Be that the failure to have paid sick leave, the failure to have, to deal with what we need to do to support working people, the failure of affordable childcare and the failure of adequate childcare in terms of having enough childcare, right? Not to mention supporting childcare workers. It has highlighted the problems in a way that more people, I think, are aware of what wasn't working. And so part of how we think about the American Rescue Plan and just this moment is, let's not go back to normal. Let's do better than normal, right? The president says all the time, let's build back better. Let's do better. Let's leapfrog into where we know we can be. And in the midst of helping people and rescuing folks, let's also fix some of these failures. And we're very excited about that. And obviously, the work that you are doing around making sure we bring technology to communities, so much, just like Danielle was saying, of this has highlighted that we need to help our small businesses with tech infrastructure. We need to, right? These are the things that we need to do to help people actually be able to be competitive and to be strong as we go forward. So thank you for your leadership. It was great to meet with that whole group. It was right before COVID broke out, and I look forward to staying in touch. So thank you. Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us. Madam Vice President, I joked with everybody that we are all family now. They won't be able to get away from us so for the next 4 years. So I'll let you close with any parting thoughts.
Well, I'm looking, you know how it is with these virtual meetings. There's the camera, but here you guys are. So now I'm going to look at you and say, what a group of just incredible leaders. You all are national leaders. I have come to know each of you over the course of this process. Some I knew before, and I know even better now. And these have been difficult, difficult days that have really challenged us to have hope and to have a sense of optimism. But I know it is that optimism and hope that has driven the fight and driven the belief in what is possible. And so this is but a piece of that, the American Rescue Plan. It's a very important piece of it. And so let's recognize, though, that what it will do, and then let us know that going forward, there's still a lot more work to do. And it is absolutely, it's about supporting working folks and appreciating the dignity of work, supporting working families, understanding the challenges that parents face to raise children, the challenges that educators face to educate our children, the challenges small businesses, that essential workers who should not be treated like sacrificial workers, but should be treated with the dignity and respect they deserve because they're keeping it all working and moving. So let's celebrate each other. And all of the folks that you all as leaders represent. We're all in it together. And again, I'll just end where I started, which is to say thank you, thank you for having the courage and the commitment and the conviction you do. Thank you on behalf of the president and myself. Okay, and I'll see you soon.